Oh, it's good to be back. Hey there guys, I'm Will, welcome to FP1, and the first comedy review of 2023. At last, this channel can finally make some money again. This year was always going to be a bit of a weird one for me. Daniel Ricciardo is gone, and that means for the first time ever, I'm going to be a completely neutral Formula 1 fan. Besides the fact I still hate McLaren. And what a time to make the switch, with the potential to see both Red Bulls, both Ferraris, both Mercedes and one Aston Martin in the hunt for 2023 race wins. I've actually got a feeling we're on the eve of a phenomenal season. We'll get into all of that soon enough, but let's kick things off with the comedy review for the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. Let's start then, as we usually do, with the news, in a segment I'm now calling
What the hell is going on here? Oh, mamma mia.
And we may as well begin with the FIA, as they still have a hard-on for Lewis Hamilton's nose ring collection. #Bless was eventually cleared to race, as was Lance Stroll, though whether he should have been is another matter. The Canadian was clearly trying to emulate the training regime of new teammate Fernando Alonso ahead of the new season. That being said, I don't think he should have repeated the Spaniard's cycling accident. Surgery therefore knocked him out of the pre-season test at Bahrain, where Aston took full advantage of his absence and decided to be quick for once. And with his involvement in the opening weekend of the season looking more and more in doubt as the test went on, the questions turned to who might step in to replace him. Would it be Felipe Drugovich? Would it be Sebastian Vettel? Would they exhume Ayrton Senna and throw him in the car? He's probably still quicker than Stroll, to be honest. In the end, and to the disappointment of those in the Aston Martin boardroom, Stroll was ruled fit to compete, and that might as well lead us into practice, but we all wondered if the doctor who made that decision was a bit of an idiot. Over the course of Friday, Stroll appeared to struggle in the car, whether it be turning the wheel, getting in and out, or not being a dick to his engineers. Ferrari, meanwhile, had troubles of a different sort, Carlos Sainz's machine seemingly wanting to kill its driver at every opportunity. And balance issues would become the theme of the weekend, with even pre-season pace sitters Red Bull struggling to find the perfect setup for the next coming of Jesus Christ over here. McLaren struggling was a bit less of a shock. You can't see it, but I'm struggling to hide my smug face right now. New signing Oscar Piastri spent Friday writing apology letters to Alpine in the hope they might just forgive the Australian or put him out of his misery by shooting him in the head. The rookie had to take avoiding action in FP2 for none other than Lance Stroll, and fair play to Oscar, I didn't know Lance could go that quick either. McLaren really weren't looking good then. Meanwhile, in an FP1 Will exclusive, here's some footage of Daniel Ricciardo hearing the news. It wasn't all doom and gloom, however. Fernando Alonso was loving life in his new Aston Martin, splitting the Red Bulls in FP1 before topping the remaining 2 practice sessions of the weekend. It may have taken 20 years, but the single brain cell bouncing around his head may well have made its first good decision. The big question then remained whether Aston had the pace to put it on the front row in qualifying, maybe even put it into pole position. The Twitter analysts sure seem to think so. Then again, maybe there's a reason they spurt their predictions out on there as opposed to actually working for an F1 team. Q1 regardless looked rather promising, with Alonso up there alongside the Red Bulls, Mercedes, who had come out of nowhere, and Ferraris, once they had shed half of their parts across the circuit. Leclerc's striptease was enough to bring out the red flag, giving the grid only 13 minutes to cram 2 runs in around the Sakir International Circuit, and that gave us quite the varied drop zone at the end of Q1. New Williams signing Sargent just missing out after setting an identical lap time to Lando Norris at the end of the session. Joining him would be Gasly, Magnussen, De Vries and Piastri. Shall we check on Ricciardo again? Q2 would see some squeaky bum time for Lance Stroll, who saw his first lap invalidated and had it all to do in the closing moments of the session. The Canadian would just squeeze into the top 10, as the Alfa Romeos, Norris, Tsunoda and Albon entered the 15 minutes in the drop zone. So with just 10 drivers remaining, and the Duracell admin accidentally tweeting what they meant to search in incognito mode, it was time for the first Q3 of 2023. And for me to remember that the Formula 1 was on and actually tune in. I've outed myself there, haven't I? Anyway, what we hoped would be a dramatic 7-car shootout for pole ended in rather anticlimactic fashion. Verstappen blitzed to the top of the times early on as Leclerc split the Red Bulls with P2, And apparently that was all she wrote for that one. First, the Mercs and Astons decided to just do one mediocre lap in the middle of the session for no reason whatsoever. And if you thought that was a weird strategy, then just wait until you see what Ferrari did. Scared they might screw it up again, they decided just to pack up and go home. I'm honestly lost for words. Hashtag bring back Binotto. So, with the front-running teams handing Verstappen and Red Bull a 3-1-2 on a plate, it was time to see whether they could do anything on the race on Sunday. Well, it almost is. You may have noticed there was no sponsor message at the start of this video, and that's because there isn't one. I know, call me Will Buxton. I do, however, just want to announce that I've launched memberships on the channel, so if you enjoy the videos and want to help support me, then you can hit the join button below this video. Or don't, it's up to you. Perks range from badges and shoutouts to members-only updates and polls that will dictate the direction I decide to take the channel. So if you want to help out and get involved, you know what to do. Now over to the race. Ferrari's weekend would get worse on Sunday when it was revealed that Leclerc needed a new energy store, which, like the Tifosi, was depleted after watching the Red Bull in Q3. He would at least get the best start out of the top three, leaping ahead of Perez, who dropped back to third. Further back, Lance Stroll showed that he was about as good at driving his Aston Martin as he was riding his bike, running clean into the back of Fernando Alonso into turn 4. Luckily for them, the FIA had forgotten to turn damage on, so both could continue. McLaren weren't having a great afternoon, Norris struggling with an engine issue before Piastri one-upped him a few laps later. Oh dear. Meanwhile, Alonso was fighting his way back through the pack, picking his way past George Russell with a great battle through the first sector. And great job they were giving us some action, as at the front, Verstappen was busy making F1 boring again. It seemed the only person having a worse day than the average Mercedes fan was Esteban Ocon, who decided he wanted to beat his new teammate Pierre Gasly in every single aspect, with a particular stress on penalty points. The Frenchman got 5 seconds for being out of position on the starting grid. While serving this, one of his mechanics got a little too eager too early, handing him another one, and then while serving that, he sped in the pit lane, handing in penalty number 3. Checking back in with Alonso and having dispatched Russell, he was now on the tail of his best mate Lewis Hamilton. And while this Aston Martin had all the rear grip of a shopping trolley on his first attempt, that set up a fantastic move down the inside of turn 10. No jokes on this one. It was just fantastic. Nando was now looking at the Ferrari of sights ahead for P4, which soon became the fight for the podium after Charles Leclerc's Ferrari started doing Ferrari things again. With Ocon finally deciding it was time to come into the pits and kill himself, we were left with a phenomenal scrap to close out the Grand Prix. Sainz, Alonso and Hamilton all sparring for the final spot on the first podium of the season, and we wouldn't be disappointed, Fernando making it past and proving yet again that the Aston's been built out of bedrock this year. Up at the very front, it was all looking rosy for Max Verstappen and Red Bull though. He would come home to take his first race win of the season, with Perez in his usual position of being 10 seconds behind in second place. Overall, while the race maybe wasn't the most exciting one we've ever seen, we've still had some fantastic battles here. Hats off to Fernando Alonso for keeping us all awake for that one. Saudi Arabia and Jeddah come next, and if we get a dull race there, then there's always human rights controversies and the odd stray missile to add some excitement. Still, let me know your thoughts and predictions on that one, and of course today's race down in the comments below. But if you enjoyed the comedy review, be sure to drop the video a like and get subscribed for more every Sunday all year long. As I said at the start, it is very good to be back. A final thank you goes out to my patrons and members. If you want to help support me in the channel, or just check out any of my other social media, all the links you need are down in the description below. But for now, that's all from me, so I'll see you soon with another video, but until then, have a good one.